This is not a poop cast.
Are you sure?
It is now. Poop, 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 poop. Welcome, everybody. Today is March 4th, 2020, and this is episode 2 of Never Free to Play, a podcast where we talk all about games we wish we were playing, and if you're lucky, something we've actually played this week. I'm Karch Palashti.
And I'm Jason Wright.
And if you keep listening and tell your friends, maybe we'll play some more games. Jason, how are you doing?
Dude, I am tired. I'm exhausted. I keep staying up way too late to play games because that's the only time of the day that I have to do it. How about you?
The same. You get home from work, you do your stuff, you still want to play games, but it's 11 o'clock already, and then it's 12 o'clock already, and then it's technically tomorrow, and you're still up playing something or watching something or wishing you played something, and you're not sleeping. But this is the price we pay for the craft that we love so much. Podcasting.
Which is,
not games.
Not games. We hate games, but we love podcasting.
We're here for you first and foremost, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, listeners, fans who adore us. So last week was our inaugural episode, and I just want to thank everybody who listened, all 3 or 4 of you. It was really touching. And,
some forcibly.
Just give us your feedback. We got some feedback, and it was really good, and most of it from ourselves, and how much we hate the way we sound, and the things we say and how much we talk. Like right now, I'm talking too much and I'm just overshadowing Jason. Poor
I affirm too much.
You do. He's an agreeable fellow and we need to beat that out of him. And we're gonna figure it out.
Yes.
But we dove right into it last week. So I just want to take a moment to talk about ourselves, who we are, just, a little personal background and what we're trying to accomplish with this podcast, aside from having a good time, because I'm definitely having a good time. Are you having a good time, Jason?
Absolutely.
All right. So we're 30, both of us. Our birthdays are within like 2 weeks of each other. We've both got families, wives, and kids. We've each got a dog, which is a lot harder than it sounds sometimes. And we've been friends for a really, really long time. How long have we been friends, Jason?
We are coming up on 21 years. I did the math last night because I was curious.
Wow. I did not do the math, and so that number's kind of blowing me away right now.
I know, right?
Where did we meet?
Forest Lakes Elementary, 5th grade.
Oh, yes.
1999, fall of 1999.
Miss Cogan's class.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
Jason was the new kid in town. He had just moved there, if I'm not mistaken. And he was sat next to me, and I was kind of a jerk to him. And he went home and he told his mama all about the mean kid who poked him with his pencil.
Yeah.
And we were best friends from that moment on.
Somehow, and we wrote a poetry book together because of Miss Cogan.
Never published.
Well, I think it's spiral bound at my mom's house somewhere.
Oh, that poetry book. I thought you were talking about the other poetry book. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, there are 2 poetry books.
No, not that one. Oh, geez.
You'll never see the light. That one will never see the light of day.
Do you still have it?
I do.
Okay, great. No, it will never. We will never post that on Instagram. It will never happen.
Absolutely not. Mostly because I don't know how to use an Instagram. I don't know how to use a Twitter. I barely know how to use a Facebook. But we're going to learn how to do these things as we go along. All right, so that was a little bit about us. So what are we trying to do here? Well, we're trying to talk about games. And we want to do that in a safe for work kind of way. I've got a 6-year-old. I can't listen to a lot of the stuff that I listen to when she's around, and that's kind of annoying. And sometimes it's easy enough with headphones, but just rest assured that this is something you can listen to when you're doing the dishes in the kitchen, and the kids are around in the other room, or you're driving
taking a shower.
Exactly. Taking a shower, and you're blasting that sweet, sweet Bose Bluetooth speaker, waterproof, but don't get it too wet.
Do you do that?
Do I do what?
Do you have a waterproof Bose that
Not
you listen to in the
shower? I've got one. I think it's an Oonts. OONTZ, whatever that means. It's really
Shout
nice.
out.
I like it a lot. Sponsor us, Oonts.
Yeah.
You can reach us at Never Free to Play. You can reach us at neverfreetoplay@gmail.com.
Oh,
all
yeah.
ad requisitions.
Well, we should have probably said that in the intro, but you can find us at neverfreetoplay.com or patreon.com/neverfreetoplay, when that'll link to all the other social media where we are never free to play.
Very good. Very good.
No, I just want to go back to this. My phone is waterproof, so I just listen to that in the shower. But then my toddler walks in when I'm in the shower and he's like, "Hey, dad," and I have to pause every single one of my gaming podcasts. And that's part of the reason why I like explicitives. Is it explicitives? Expletives. I like expletives as much as the next guy, and I say them a lot, but not when my toddler's awake. And it's really annoying to have to pause every single gaming podcast. And that's part of why we wanted to do this.
So, yeah, that's us. We'll probably reveal a little bit more about each other and our friendship as it's been through the years and what else we're going to try to do with this podcast as it grows. But for now, let's go ahead and move on to some corrections, Jason.
All right. So hopefully Greg listens to this episode carefully enough, because I'm going to tell him a message right now. And this is the test for next week. So my first correction is that last time at the end of the episode, we bashed Greg for not making the intro music like he said he was going to, but then he actually made it in post-production after we recorded. So I'm going to give him a week off this week of me saying why he's the worst, because he earned that. And this week, if he can start some corrections music right now, then he'll get next week off. So we'll see. We'll see if he can do that. So that was the first correction. Second correction is apparently I said Jedi Fallen Order instead of The Force Awakens. I don't remember exactly where that was, but I know
you got that backwards, man.
Oh, well, that's what you typed here. Oh, I said Force Awakens. See, I even got it wrong in the corrections.
Oh, okay. Correct the corrections.
Well, we'll correct that next week. Mm-hmm. So I said Force Awakens instead of Fallen Order, probably when I was talking about what I wish I was playing.
Probably.
But it's not as bad as what Karch did, because Karch said Cory Balrog instead of Cory Barlog. Fly, you fools.
He is not a demon from the Shadow Realm.
No. And then we were having a discussion around Doom, and id was the original developer for Doom. So this is probably a correction for next week. I don't know if Bethesda published the original one, but id was the developer. And also the last correction is that I said that GeForce Now was 2 hours a day, but it is in fact, the trial is actually 1 hour a day, which brings us to our first news story. You guys can go check out this article called Why Nvidia's GeForce Now Has Become So Controversial with Game Developers. It's from Nick Stat over at TheVerge.com. So this past week, we saw a handful of developers and publishers pulling their games out of GeForce Now. And originally, the controversy there was, well, they didn't ask us if they could include our games on the free trial. Ignore that truck. But so they were pulling their games, and I think there was some hope that eventually in the future they would strike a deal or whatever. Well, now this indie developer, Raphael Van Lerop, that's the best I can do. He developed a game called The Long Dark, and he pulled his game off of GeForce Now, which is a game streaming service. And he basically said, as a developer, I need to have the power to control where my game's distributed, and I don't appreciate it being hosted on this service where I don't have any control over, it being there. I can't monetize that. So there are kind of two sides of this story, Karch. One of them is, I'm a developer, I'm a publisher, I need to run the business. But then the other side of that is, why should a developer control what hardware you run their software on? Because essentially GeForce Now is just a virtualization. You're running a virtual machine on a server, and they have streamlined installing and playing Steam games. So why should a developer have control over where you run their software?
They absolutely
I don't know.
Shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, and I do claim to be the most pro consumer. Um, Tell me your thoughts on it.
I am always in the camp of let me do what I want with what is mine. Now, what is mine is an even murkier discussion that's been going on for the last 30 something years since
Sure.
software and licensing started to really take hold as people started, purchasing various levels of permissions and rights to the software that was being handed to them. Games especially, it's like, oh, you only have it's essentially the fanciest version of a rental you could ever imagine. It's usually like a 25-year long or a sorry 25-year long or a 50-year long rental, technically, if you dive into the terms and conditions of the agreement. But essentially, they're like, oh, we can revoke this at any time. So I'm always in the camp of let me do what I want with what I own. And so, in that regard, don't tell me what I can run it on. If I want to use GeForce Now, I should be able to.
Oh, I totally agree. And the thing is I feel like this is a little bit of a slippery slope because there are other streaming services out there that market themselves a little bit differently, but like Shadow streaming, for instance, that's a gaming service where it does the exact same thing. It's renting a virtual machine with a Windows 10 installed, and it's optimized for gaming. And you can also play Steam games on Microsoft Azure. You can configure that to be able to stream. So you basically go in, you log into a browser, you open it up. It looks like Windows, and then it runs like a normal computer. And then you're running Steam, you're running your Steam game. But it's streaming. It's not actually doing that hard processing power on your local device. It's doing that in a server and streaming you the video, and it's optimized to do that. So at what point do you say you draw the line and say, okay, fine, maybe GeForce Now is a bridge too far because it's more of this app that's very focused on delivering games and the user interface is custom and it's not a Windows install. But where do you draw the line? I mean, are they going to try to revoke the ability to stream from any virtual game service?
Yeah, they will if they think that it's a threat.
And that's what I just don't understand because, like, for instance, I use Dixper. So, I mean, technically, I can stream from my own personal PC and I can be over across town at my parents' house and pull it up on my laptop and be playing my PC games. So, I mean, are they going to come after that too? I mean, where do you draw that line?
I mean, that's an age old question when it comes to like emulation and what does and doesn't count as piracy when you own the cartridge and you're not selling anything, but you're technically using a ripped version of an old, even a game from like 25 years ago, is in many jurisdictions and states and principalities and all that stuff. It's still technically quote unquote illegal.
Sure.
I know a lot of people still can do it. Again, it varies from place to place, but it really just boils down to: do we think, we being the company, the publisher in this case, whoever owns the IP for the game, do we think that they're somehow encroaching on a market that we could be capitalizing on because of they're using our information? And the answer, if that answer is even close to yes, you're getting a cease and desist, unless they're just feeling real generous.
I mean, I don't know what they think they're going to accomplish by taking it off because I'm not buying 2 copies of a game. I'm just not going to do it.
And funnily enough, that's just something that's actually coming up in all the new console launch stuff where CD Projekt Red especially, and a couple other people, basically, you buy our game, Cyberpunk, for instance, will probably be out before those consoles, assuming they don't just shadow drop before. We know when Cyberpunk's coming out. We don't know when the consoles are coming out. But if you buy it on PS4 or Xbox One, they will give you a free upgrade to the next one. You won't have to pay for the second copy on the next gen consoles. And so it's the exact opposite of what we're talking about here. Here's an opportunity to make some money on essentially where you're playing your game. And CD Projekt Red is like, no, that's scummy. We're not doing that. Of course, it's a very different scenario. Like, they're not at all apples to apples, but they're not necessarily apples to oranges either.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I mean, I don't know. Obviously, as a consumer, and I'm totally on this end of that transaction, I would love to see a future where you buy a game one time and you can play it on anything. So I don't know how the back end of that would look.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly don't want to have to download a launcher from every publisher in order to accomplish that. But I think it could be interesting in the future. I'm sure it won't ever go that way because obviously you're leaving a lot of money on the table doing that, but it's just kind of my own pipe dream.
Yeah. I had a similar pipe dream the other day. I was coming up with some crazy scheme where essentially it is, yeah, buy it once and that's it forever.
Yeah.
As long as you can figure out how to play it and you have whatever they classify as proof of purchase. And that's what it really comes down to is like, how did you get this? And then alternatively, how easy is it to share it? Because that's a huge problem. That's something that the used game market's been struggling with forever. This is the same problem over and over again. We've just moved to a more digital space now. So.
Yeah. And well, that's kind of one thing I was really, really hoping for with this transition to digital. I guess it was probably 2015. I don't know when it really started ramping up and really, really pushing hard with digital purchases, but I do feel like it was around the time, it was early in the life cycle of this current generation of PS4 and Xbox One. But I was really hoping GameStop would pivot and find a way to have a used market for digital codes. I thought that would be, because I remember there was a time where when Xbox was originally announced, Xbox One, they were saying, we're going to make even physical copies and digital copies will both be unique to the console. So you can't transfer those or whatever.
Right. They were doing it in the opposite direction where it was going to be even worse than it was.
Right. That's what it was. So basically they were trying to stop you from reselling your physical copies. That's what it was.
Yeah.
But I was really hoping, because they kind of backed off that when they saw the reaction to it. And I was really hoping GameStop would find a way to work with everybody and maybe some other players too, like Steam or whomever, to figure out that a secondhand market. I mean, I know they have no reason to do that. The publishers themselves, they have no reason to allow that. But it would be really cool for the storefronts. I mean, they could skim a little off the top to do a license transfer. And within a single ecosystem, I see no reason why that couldn't work. Something like Steam.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, if a license can be revoked. It happens all the time. You run out of, like, I just canceled my Xbox Game Pass subscription. I'm going to re-up it because I got to play Ori and Halo just dropped, and we'll get to that later. But I can't access their store. If I was some sort of crazy, talented, or ambitious person, could I somehow create a way to get that service without paying for it? Maybe. But 99 out of 100 times, people are not going to be able to do that. You're not losing money because those people are always going to be pirating. And this is getting a little off track into, hey, is pirating okay? Yes or no? It's probably not, guys. We don't think pirating's okay. No. But my point is that if you can revoke a license, your comments about a used market for digital games make sense, or something to that effect. Right. Now, the other side is, why would they do it? There's really no fiscal reason why you would want to do that.
No.
But that means that you need to be more friendly with sales. And for the most part, I felt, especially in this last generation of games, this last 5 to 6 years, people have gotten real friendly with sales, especially after, like, even sometimes as quick as, like, especially if the game's not doing well, as quick as like 3 months. And you'll see that game go on sale for like $40 or $30 or.
And a lot of times you can even, if you dare pre-order, you can get games for, $45 sometimes, depending on where you get it from.
Shop smart, folks.
Right. Totally agree. But yeah, that was my news for the week. That was the only one I had.
All right, that's a little dour. Let's move into some happier news. The Nintendo Switch turned 3. I believe it was yesterday on March 3rd. I think we were talking about this. This is actually a late correction. We were saying this was the 4th anniversary. It's actually just its 4th year. It turned 3 yesterday.
Yeah, I had to go through that math in my head too when I heard you say that, when I re-listened to this.
Yeah. So happy birthday, Switch.
Happy
Please put out more
birthday.
games, Nintendo. We talked about this last week about why we're not super happy with you. I want more first-party games that don't feel like you're recreating the series from the ground up. Unless it's amazing, then you can keep doing that. But if it's not amazing, don't do that.
Agreed.
Death Stranding comes to PC on June 2nd. If you care to ever play Death Stranding but didn't have a PS4, I have a PS4 and a PC, and I will not be playing Death Stranding.
Same.
Yeah. Gameplay for Half-Life Alyx dropped. I watched a fair bit of it. Made me sick just watching it. I did a lot of VR with you the last time we were together. Jason and I don't live in
Did
the same
some
place.
VR with me.
I did a lot of VR. We played it every night.
Beat Saber doesn't count.
We played that other game where you kill people medieval style. We played Skyrim. We played Super Hot. We played at least one more other thing.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah. And
We did those things.
it's fine. I really like VR, both as a concept and literally how it's been implemented. It does make me a little tired at the very least. Like by the end of even just an hour, I'm like, I'm exhausted. And I don't even want to play or look at a screen right now. So
Right. Oh yeah, it's not something that you sit down, or it's not something that you relax with at night. Some experiences I think can be things like Moss, or like I played Trover Saves the Universe, and you're a Chero. I mean, it's a Rick and Morty game, so obviously a bunch of ridiculous stuff going on. But you're a Cheropian, so the entire time your perspective is a guy sitting in a computer desk chair, and you have a controller in your hand in VR, and you are controlling Trover and solving these puzzles with him. And there's some light combat elements in there, and all the while the whole Rick and Morty comedy aspect of it. I recommend that game. That's a good $30 well spent. Anyway, sorry, Half-Life. Yeah, Half-Life
Alyx coming out real soon. I don't remember the release date. I know it's March something. And this was finally some information that people were, they were getting really hungry for. It looked, like Half-Life. I've never played Half-Life. I'm sorry, everybody. If anybody out there, especially the older people who I hope are listening, are mad at me, I apologize. I didn't have a gaming PC until I was in my early 20s. And for the most part, I only played World of Warcraft on it. So I skipped Half-Life, and I'll probably skip Half-Life Alyx. But I saw an interesting thought that the end of Half-Life Alyx, because the developers, somebody at Steam or somebody at Valve said that it would help, because even though Alyx is a prequel, it would help to brush up on Half-Life 2. So there's some connection there. And then finally, the thought was that it would be amazing if the actual Half-Life 3 announcement came at the end of Half-Life Alyx, as if it was like part of a cliffhanger, or as just the way to cap off the end of the game would be to imply and confirm that Half-Life 3 is now in development or something like that. So that would be really neat.
I kind of doubt that will happen, but it would be really cool if it did.
You got to dream big.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. That is one I will definitely be playing. I will probably split that with Tyler and play it. It looked awesome. I know it won't look as good on my head because of the resolution and the graphical limitations there. And I have like a 1060, so it's not going to look as good as those trailers did, but it looked amazing and it looked like a lot of fun. So for that, I would dust off the Oculus and give it a go.
It's not limited to the Index, right?
No. Well, it shouldn't be. Everything else on Steam can be played. Everything in Steam VR can be played on Oculus. Gotcha. The reverse is not true. Oculus Store, it's only the Oculus without doing some sideloading and other kind of stuff. It's not native, but anything in Steam VR as of today will play natively on the Oculus.
Gotcha. For those who don't know, the Index is Valve's proprietary VR headset and all that stuff. So I guess it's probably going to play best there if I had to guess. But
yeah, that's the higher end. That's the higher end headset. But I don't know. So far, everything the Oculus Rift has been amazing. I'm coming from the PlayStation VR, and I sold that. But the Oculus Rift S is amazing. I really, really dig it.
Yeah, I like what I've played. I played it at your house and I played it at another friend's house. So I've got two people I can always bum off of if I need to get a quick VR fix or anything like that. But
for sure,
it's the only one I've played. So I'm a little uneducated when it comes to VR devices, but it works really nice. And I've seen the controllers, the part that you actually use in your hand, and I don't like them for the non-Rift. I like the way that the Rift looks, and and when I imagine how the others would feel, I get turned off, and I'm like, nah, I don't want that. That doesn't look good, especially PlayStations. No thanks.
No, yeah, I don't understand why they continue to shoehorn that in. And if I had to guess, they're going to continue. That's why I sold my PlayStation VR. The tracking was just really bad compared to any other VR device. I mean, they track via light, like literally light. So you have those old PlayStation Move controllers with the balls on top, and the light that's emitted from those balls is what the camera's tracking. So in other words, if you turn around and your body's blocking the controllers, well, in VR, your hands disappear because now PlayStation VR can't track you. Whereas Oculus Rift S does inside-out tracking. So it's got obviously like gyroscopic in the controllers, but then also the headset itself has cameras, infrared cameras on the headset that are facing out. So it kind of looks to see where your hands are in space. And that way you don't it's a very streamlined setup compared to a lot of other VR headsets, and you get a little bit of trade-off in the accuracy of tracking, but you get a lot of convenience out of that, which I like I said, that's for me, it's the convenience factor of VR. Having a dedicated room with beacons, it's too complicated of a setup.
Yeah, Rift's great. Oculus is Facebook's now, right?
Yes.
I hate Facebook.
Yeah. I mean, they're probably tracking my eyeballs, and they probably have my social security number and all that, but
got it from your eyeballs.
Yeah, exactly. They just draw it right out. But despite that, it's still fun.
All right. So let's go ahead and talk about what we've been playing with the little free time that we do have.
Okay. Well, I'll start. I quit Gears 5. I was about 3 hours in. I don't really have much to say about it. It felt very trite, and the combat was fun, but it eventually felt a little samey, and enemy variety is boring. And I'm walking around planets and shooting things. It felt like Halo 1. And I wasn't really enthralled with the story either. So it's like, okay. To be fair, I haven't played any of the previous Gears games, but I think you can appreciate a good story when you see one. I didn't see one there. I quit Wolfenstein Youngblood. I played that one. I played both Gears 5 and Wolfenstein with Tyler, one of our friends. And that one, it was really cool, but it was so hard. Like, we dropped it down to easy, and we could not get past the first mini boss encounter. We just couldn't do it.
Were you guys playing that? Does it have a co-op feature, or?
It does have a co-op feature where the main characters are like these sisters.
This is that. I'm sorry. I thought this was Wolfenstein 2. I wasn't paying attention.
No. I may have said Wolfenstein 2, but I meant Wolfenstein Youngblood. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like how that one works is it's a sequel. I think it's a sequel just from Wolfenstein 2. Maybe it's kind of flash forward in the future. Yeah.
It's the daughters of Blazkowicz or whatever.
Yes, and it takes place in like an alternate reality where Germany won World War II. So you're these sisters, and it's like the 80s, and it's got a really cool vibe, and it's got some cool mechanics. Like you have like a joint health bar. Or
interesting.
I can't remember exactly how that works. There's a part of it where it's maybe not your entire health bar, but like once you get down to a certain point, you have like a joint health bar or something like that, and you can revive each other and all this stuff. Anyway, it was really cool, but it was just too hard. We dipped our toe into Battlefield 5 on EA Origin Access, which is EA's subscription service exclusively for PC. They do have a separate one they call EA Access that's for console. But this one's the one for PC, so it's just a slightly different library. I can tell why Battlefield 5 did not sell that well.
What was wrong with it?
It was pretty... It was just so boring, and it's like every other first-person shooter war game you've ever played. There was just nothing unique about it at all. And it didn't look that good either. I don't know. That's just me.
That's weird.
Maybe I had it turned down accidentally. Like I know some of these newer games will try to configured the graphic setting to like what they think is going to be best, but it's not always what's best. And then finally, I played Final Fantasy VII Remake Demo that dropped. When did it drop, Karch?
It dropped like Monday at like, I don't know, 3 a.m. Eastern time, something crazy. So instead of doing it Sunday night or Saturday night, they decided, hey, I don't know if there was like any kind of notice beforehand, because they've been talking about this demo dropping. Like the rumor mill's been talking about it for months. Oh, it's coming any day now. It's coming any day now. And well, it did. It literally came any day.
Well,
and I loved it. We're actually late recording this because I wanted to have some impressions with it. It's very short. It's only an hour and a half. And as soon as I was done with it last night, I told Jason that I needed to play it. He immediately blew me off and then surprised me when I woke up in the morning and saw that he had indeed played it. So I'm a long time Final Fantasy fan. I've been playing it since, I was in early middle school, 6th or 7th grade. I played my first Final Fantasy game, which was 8. Shortly after, I found 7 on sale at like a FYE, bought that and fell in love with it. Jason has never played a Final Fantasy game, not in any meaningful way.
No.
And so I want to hear his impressions first.
So I will say, I just want to start with my my experience trying to download the demo. Did you find it difficult to navigate the PlayStation Store to get to this demo? I had a really hard time finding it.
No, I found it on. It was on like their little, whatever you call their front page. Their landing page. I went over like 2 clicks to the right, and it was there. So I just clicked on it and downloaded it from there.
On the PlayStation itself, or in the computer?
On the PlayStation itself.
That's so strange, because I went to the PlayStation Store. I typed in Final Fantasy VII. This is the first thing I typed was Final Fantasy VII, and it came out with you could pre-order the remake, or you could buy the old classic version.
Right.
And so I clicked into the actual like pre-order thing, and I saw a pre-order for $60, or pre-order like the ultimate edition for $80, and I was like, no. So I clicked down to there. So then I typed Final Fantasy VII Remake Demo, and that had no results. So then I just typed demo, thinking maybe it'd give me a list of demos, and it didn't. So then I backed out, and I thought, well, maybe it's on the promotional page because it's brand new. I know it's brand new. No, it wasn't there. So then I was very confused. I almost had to call you. And I went into the store, and I just was like, oh, fine. Maybe there's something I'm missing in the game pre-order thing. So I retyped in Final Fantasy VII Remake Demo, or just Final Fantasy VII Remake, went into the pre-order thing, scrolling all the way down to the bottom, and there's a button that says try it.
That's so weird.
Yeah. So that took me a good 10 minutes to even find it. But once I got it downloaded, I hit the button. The PlayStation prompted me to configure HDR, which is never done before, even for games like Horizon that I know had a PS4 Pro patch. So I configured for HDR. So I'm running a Sony Bravia. It's a kind of a newer one. It's only a couple years old. It has HDR 10, I believe. And it looked amazing. The opening cinematic blew me away. They drop you in. It's super intense. You play as Cloud. You're obviously a mercenary that this crew hired you to do a job. And my initial impressions of the combat were like, oh, this is like hack and slash. Like, this is cool. I could do this. Because the one thing I know about Final Fantasy VII is that it's turn-based. But they've revamped the combat system, and it is incredible.
Yeah, the combat is amazing. I knew a little bit about it going into the demo because I was watching the coverage for E3 last year, and there's been a few additional videos on some of PlayStation. What do they call their direct video things?
Oh, outsiderness. Hold on. PlayStation. Hold on. PlayStation Nintendo Direct. That's what I'm gonna.
Oh, it comes to me so easily.
Yeah, PlayStation. What's it called? What the heck's it called? State of Play.
State of Play. Gosh, so they did a big thing on State of Play. That was mostly like a story cinematic thing, showing off a few, just how far they'd come in development. And that was a few months ago. But yeah, I'd seen a few pieces of it, and I I just really liked the way that they had described how they had transferred the ATB, which stands for Active Time Battle System. So in the original, you would just sit there and you would wait for this little bar to fill up, and it would go faster or slower depending on how fast or slow the speed stat for your character was, or if you were afflicted with some sort of status condition. And then once the bar filled up, you could do whatever you were able to do, whether that was attack, defend, heal, cast a spell, whatever. So obviously, that's not really going to fly for most people these days, except for the most diehard of fans who want like a 1-to-1 remake. And so what happens now is you're walking around in combat specifically once enemies pop up, and that gauge still does go up, but as you then press the button to attack, and Cloud starts swinging his big old sword around, or Barrett starts shooting his gun, the bar goes up faster. And then it's separated into two like miniature sub gauges, and then as you fill up one, you can start to do more abilities and spells. And what I found was interesting was items were locked behind this as well. So you can't just like spam potions or anything. You have to pick what you're going to do. Am I going to use this ability to like break their stance so that they're going to take more damage here? How low is my health? And it's all happening very fast. There is a way to like pause it, which slows the combat down to a crawl, but I think it is still technically going. So if you're in the middle of getting like shot by some robot, you're still getting shot by that robot. It's just happening at like 1/50th of the speed or whatever. But it's for those who don't want a completely active experience. It's very similar to Final Fantasy 15, but it's not quite like that, which would let you just stop it completely and then make a decision. And I didn't like that combat at all. I actually love this one way more. It's what I wish 15 would have done, and I think they were trying to go for it and couldn't quite pull off.
That sounds like a lot like Dragon Age Inquisition's combat, what you just described for Final Fantasy 15. But I agree with you that I like this a lot more. I think it's such a clever solution to cooldowns, and how do you manage that, and how do you balance that, and how do you make sure that your characters aren't overpowered. But it's really interesting because it's almost like you have this primary attack that's almost like a jab.
Yeah.
And then you can use an ATB, and I think you can use them as like one bar or both bars at the same time to do like a shorter attack or like a more powerful attack.
Yeah, it depends on the ability. Some of like, for instance, one of them only ever used one of the bars, and then the other one would use all of the available bars to do more of the thing it did. And then presumably, I would have to guess that later on in the game you'll get more bars, or things will start costing more bars. So if like you want to really pull out one of those big summons and then summon Shiva and freeze all your enemies or whatever, it's going to cost more than just 2 active bars.
I'm really interested to see how that game evolves, because in the demo you could only have 2 characters in your party. What was really cool is how you could kind of move between them during active combat. And you could, so like say there was I'm trying not to spoil, but it is a demo, so
go ahead.
I'm not going to hold back too much, but there's a boss battle where melee is pretty much ineffective, so you have to use your long range character during that piece of combat. But then once you kind of break their stance and you incapacitate them with their weakness, then you can transition over to the melee character who's kind of up and in the enemy's face already, and you can use them to do more damage. So the other cool thing is you can go, what is it called when you go into the like you pause combat? What is that? I can't remember what that's called.
I don't remember what they call it either, but yeah, it essentially lets you pause combat and switch between the characters and assign them different. Like, so I'm controlling Cloud, I'm swinging the sword, but I need Barrett to do something else real quick. You go into that pause state, you switch over to him in the menu, and it's all very fluid. I mean, if you hate menus, you're still going to hate this part, but even for people who hate menus, I think they're going to find it works really well. And so you switch over to that other character, you pick the move, and then you switch back to Cloud. So the other character does the move, and then Cloud, you can take control of him and keep slashing away.
Right. And I really, so like you said, I have never played the classic game. This game has a classic mode. Is that more of a 1-to-1?
No, it'll still, the story and everything will still be exactly the same. I think that is just combat. And what it does, I didn't read the little blurb and I didn't look it up. I meant to, but I think what that'll do is it'll automatically put you in that kind of stopped mode. and then you have to actively get yourself out of it. Whereas the default and
Oh,
normal is everything's always moving, you're always in an active state, and then you have to enter the pause mode. So I think it just kind of flips it around. And then I
I
also think that it's on the easier difficulty by default.
okay.
We
Okay.
both played on normal, so.
Right, right. So that was my question is I really liked when you were running through and there was these really intense parts that you didn't get bogged down by these little minions that would
Mhm.
pop up, and I'm imagining I don't like I said I've never played the original game, but in my head I'm imagining you're running in this super intense like overworld, and then it's almost like a random encounter that takes you out of that so that you can one hit kill this little stupid robot minion.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as bad as it sounds. you that was the nature of turn-based RPGs back then. Enemies were not on the screen. Yes, you'd just be walking. The fight music would start. You'd fight them. I wouldn't say the urgency was completely destroyed, but obviously, in this kind of presentation, in this kind of fluid motion, where the enemies do just kind of pop up out of nowhere, which I don't have a problem with. I don't really care about that kind of immersion, but yeah, they'll just kind of show up like little robots. They'll fly in from the left and right screen, and then you'll kill them, and then you'll move on, and it does preserve that. Oh, I got to get out of here, because the whole purpose of the this tutorial section, which is just the very first part of the original reimagined, is it's just a tutorial, and there's a very strict time limit involved because you're setting a bomb off and it's going to blow up with you in there or with you not in there.
Yeah. I guess my only it's not even really a complaint, just kind of observation from this is that the AI didn't seem very smart. Like
It
I
did
felt
not. It did
yeah.
not seem smart.
So I felt like when whoever I was controlling was the only person fighting and the other guy was just getting wrecked. And I'm like, at least stand off to the side so that I don't have to keep using potions because he's not helping at all.
I'm wondering if they get better. I'm wondering if they do expect you to still control all however many characters you end up controlling. I'm going to go with 3 for now because that was what you originally got in a party. Even though you had like a whole cast of, I don't know, 8 or 9, you could still only have 3 in any given battle at a time. So I don't. It's unclear to me at this point. But if I hope the AI is better later on. I hope
Yeah.
this is just a kind of, all right, they're just going to sit there and not do much, or because it was a boss fight, and it's a very intricate boss fight. In
Oh,
the
it's
original
amazing.
one. So here's how the original one goes: it's just you and Barrett, and then there's the Scorpion Sentinel thing, and it shoots it stabs you with its little thing every now and then. The tail goes up, and you don't attack it, because if you attack it, it counterattacks and does it for huge damage, and that's it. And it's fine because it's the very beginning of the game and it's just teaching you the basics. But this one, there's like 4 phases, and it's
Yeah.
hopping around on the walls and the roof, and it's sending missiles out everywhere, and everything's exploding, and the characters are talking in a way that like feels organic and not stupid. They're not saying that, like, so Kingdom Hearts is the worst about this. You're doing a combo and the character will just say the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I don't really care, but the second you ever get anybody else in the room who doesn't play the game or is just kind of like removed from it anywhere, it's like why is it saying the same thing over and over
Right.
again? Can't
Yeah.
stand it. And even that eventually grates on you too, and it becomes a meme eventually. But it's not like that in this. Cloud and Barrett are talking, and they're saying things that are relative to combat. Cloud gets, and none of this is like groundbreaking, but it's just really well done. It was really well done. They have Barrett say something that had something to do with about like the phase that you were in and how you could better attack the enemy. Cloud gets hurt too much, and he's like, "Oh man, better heal up." And you're so focused on attacking or something else, you don't notice that the health bar, which is in the bottom right of the corner or the bottom right corner of the screen, is like he's in critical health, and you need to throw a potion his way.
Right. No, I loved it. I mean, I loved it so much that if I've said this earlier today to you, but if it's under 30 hours, I think I will take a crack at it.
Yeah, and I think it will be. Like I said, I know they want to aim. They've been real careful not to say exactly how long and exactly what this first part will cover. But I think if you want to squeeze 35 to 40 hours out of it, I think you'll be able to. I'd be surprised if it was much more than that, since you still never really leave that main city. But if you want to blaze through it, especially on easy mode, I don't see why you couldn't get through 20, 25 hours. I'm completely guessing, of course, but I
Yeah.
think that's
I mean,
kind of a doable thing.
I don't know that I'd want to do it on easy mode. Like the challenge for me was perfect on normal because I died once during that boss battle, and at the end of it, you have, I don't know, something like 2,000 hit points. I was down to 100, like, or under on both of my characters, pretty much out of potions. Like, it was so intense.
Yeah, but you weren't healing up all the way up until the boss fight either.
Oh, that's right, because I didn't know how to use
You didn't know how to use potions. and I don't remember a tutorial popping up for that one, but there were a lot.
I don't either. And like I said, I didn't fully understand how the ATB worked. And so I went to go use items because it said something about potions or better heal up or something like that. So I went to look at my items and it was grayed out. And I was like, oh, it's the tutorial. We don't have any items.
I thought the same thing, dude. I thought the same thing about spells when I didn't because spells also cost MP, which is your mana points, but it also costs the ATB gauge, which is really interesting because why does it cost 2 resources? But I kind of like it. Like, we'll see where it goes. But I just thought it was going to let me do spells later. But it turns out I just didn't realize that it cost me a gauge, and I just used a move, and I didn't have any.
Right. I kept focusing on the MP, thinking, oh, well, I guess I just don't have enough.
Right.
Kind of not thinking about the other thing. But anyway, overall, really enjoyed it.
I'm so excited for this, man. I'm gonna gush on this a little bit more. You said it already. The opening it's pretty much a shot for shot. That one is, but just more. The opening cinematic. I mean, before all up to the point where he jumps off the train and you start taking control of Cloud. That entire section is how the original game opens, and the music's coming in, and the new rearrangement is just it's so good. It's so good. I don't think there's any new music from the original composer from Final Fantasy VII, if I remember reading that correctly months ago, but they're definitely going to bring back all the old music, and that's really all you need. You just got to lay it out, the new story beats and stuff. But I do not have a PS4 Pro, and mine still looked really good. Some parts looked a little fuzzy, especially around where people's hair met their face. Cloud's hair especially looks kind of weird occasionally, and then
it looked on point on my end.
It looked on point, so that's great.
I don't know. I mean, I thought it looked good.
And
eventually, I was thinking about doing my hair that way.
What'd you say?
I was thinking about doing my hair that way.
Exactly. Go blonde, spike it up.
I can pull it off.
Yeah. But there was real small frame rate hitches every now and then, but almost like never during combat. I didn't notice any during combat anyway, which is where it really matters. Not that it's like a twitchy kind of thing, but it's still nice not to chug in the middle of a big boss fight. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying not to affirm as much.
Okay. Did somebody say you shouldn't affirm?
No, I got annoyed with myself.
You got annoyed with yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see. Was there anything else you didn't like about the demo or about the game in general? What the demo was supposed to represent?
No, I mean, I can't judge the story too much because it just seemed ridiculous to me. But I just expected that from.
What do you? So tell me, what do you think the story is? Tell me what you learned from this demo. Tell me the story of Final Fantasy VII so far.
This is what I got out of it. There is this established crew that was doing this job, but they needed some help doing it, so they hired Cloud, and they're just jerks to him the entire time. They're like, "You better be worth the money. Do it, Stamp. Do it, Merc." And then they just well, you're walking through, and they're just like, "Oh, we're just gonna keep going. We'll let you handle all the bad guys." And then there's this random fat guy who doesn't do anything. He's just like, "I'm gonna stand outside the fence. You guys go ahead."
That's Wedge.
And okay, great, Wedge. And then they go in, they blow up a bomb. Meanwhile, there's these older people in a separate place that are like looking through a video stream, and they're like, "Oh no, there's people blowing up the thing. We can't let them do that." And then they send the Sentinel out, but then we kill the Sentinel, and then they're like, "Okay, fine, we'll just blow the whole place up, and we have to run and get out of there."
Yeah, that's
But
about it.
maybe, but it could have also been the bomb that blew it up. But they press a button, and
No,
the
that was really interesting. So in the original, the bomb blows up everything. At least it's implied. Like if it was supposed to imply that those old guys that you're talking about, the people who own the company and the plant and everything, were the ones who really made it blow up that badly, it's very subtle and not told very well. But in this one, I like that they're going down this angle because this group that you're joining up with, they're like these environmentalist freedom fighters. And the bomb goes off, and it's very obvious that it does not do that much damage. Obviously, they're going to have to repair the reactor, but then when they send their little robots in and just like the whole like quarter of the city just goes up in like green flames, and that they do that, you can see that where they're going to go with the story this time. They're going to make these people, they're like, oh, look what these terrorists did when they were the ones who did it. It's very, hush hush. What's the word I'm looking for? It's like clandestine.
sure, sure.
But no, it's little changes like that because this game's going to cover a section that only took a couple hours, like anywhere between like 3 and 5 hours in the original. It's going to take who knows how long, 20, 30, 40, 50, depending on how like, in depth you get with it. These characters that come in early and then leave the game really early, then you can't really get attached to, like, Biggs, Wedge, Jesse, those the three people, the fat guy, the girl,
Right.
and the weird guy with the bandana whose voice I can't stand. I didn't
Hardcore.
like him. I didn't like him at all.
I didn't either.
Yeah, but like Jesse's got a way more character than she had in the original. And just don't fall in love with Jesse, everybody. Don't fall in love with Jesse.
Should I put a spoiler before our whole discussion?
Yeah, you should.
Okay, I'll go back and do that. I have a timestamp for it.
Cool. Yeah. But man, she was thirsty for Cloud.
Oh yeah.
She wanted to get on Cloud 9. That's
That's a terrible dad joke.
I know. I didn't like dodge rolling. It felt ineffective. Did you feel like dodging did anything? Like, I feel like they put it in there because they felt like they had to, because it didn't matter how or when I used it, I still got hit every time.
Yeah,
I guess
it. Because I wasn't really paying that much attention to my health until the boss fight, I don't know that I can really answer that question. But it did seem like in the boss fight, the spread of the bullets was so wide that you just couldn't get away from it no matter what.
Right. It was pretty chaotic. I am so stoked. I talked about it last week, and I was like, oh, I didn't want to like it. I am all in on this, and I am so excited to see how they're going to translate what. So a lot of people, they dump on this game, especially people who are fans of Final Fantasy and JRPGs and turn-based things. Are like, oh, it's not that good, and it's only popular because it was the first one that came to America that a lot of people played on the PlayStation 1. That's not true. This is a really good game. The original is a really good game. It's old now. It's ugly. It doesn't necessarily hold up against certain criteria, but it's a really good game with a really good story that, for me at least, is engaging all the way through. I replayed it last year, and I had a brand new appreciation for a lot of things that I had either forgotten or missed or had just, again, not really considered before. And they are going to take everything that's good about the original, if this demo is any indication anyway, and they are going to really bring it home and be like, this is why Final Fantasy VII is everybody's favorite. We're going to make it everybody's favorite again.
Yeah.
And I'm excited.
They might even garner some new fans because I'm kind of excited for it too. So
they got rid of the turn-based thing, and I think for most people, that's all that they needed to do.
I don't mind turn-based. I can't do 60, 70-hour games. I don't have the patience for it.
Well, this will be 3 30-hour games. How do you feel about that?
Which I can do because that's kind of like the Uncharted series, which I played all the way through. So I could do that.
So, but yeah, I'm still annoyed that it's a multi-part nonsense kind of thing, but they seem to have done a really good job with this, because what happened originally was they gave it to some company. I think it was CyberConnect was the development studio that had it. And at some point, they took it away from them. They're like, we don't like the way this is going. We're going to move it back internally inside of Square Enix. And once that happened, you started seeing a lot more like updates and a lot more positivity around it. And that was only like 2 years ago. So obviously, some groundwork must have been laid, but they also probably redid a lot of stuff or set the ship right. The director Tetsuya Nomura has already said that they've started working on the second part. So 2 years would be fine for me without starting to feel like where the heck is it and how much longer until the whole thing's finished kind of feeling. So I'm excited.
Yeah. What the way that this game works is the progression super important. Like, let's say somebody decided, well, I don't want to play the first one, but then the second one comes out and they're like, oh, I kind of want to hop in.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. I don't know how that's going to work. There's so many unanswered questions. And like in the original, you can't go back to the city once you leave it anyway. Like it's not for a long time. The story just kind of keeps on going. You have to go to new locations. So that's a really good point. Like I've got a level 20 cloud or whatever. What does that mean when I boot up part 2? And what does it mean if I never played part 1? Because you're going to be cutting off a lot of potential revenue for anybody who doesn't want to, whoever you missed the first time around who wants to play when the second one comes out.
Right. Maybe, I don't know. Because for me, it wouldn't even be a money thing. It'd just be a time thing. It wouldn't matter if they said like, oh, if you buy the second one, now you get the first part free. I'd just be like, I just don't want to play this game for 60 hours.
Right. I do. And I'm ready.
So. I'm happy it's there for you, man. I will gladly leech off your account.
Oh, yeah.
To play for 1 hour and then quit.
I can't wait to be mad at you about that.
Yeah. And you can do the same thing because I'm fully intent on buying Cyberpunk and The Last of Us Part 2. So
not on
PC. Play those for an hour each.
You're going to buy it on PC?
No. We'll see where I'm at in my headspace at that point in time. But I've been like just gung-ho PC for a long time. But then we got a new piece of furniture for the den. And now it's just really, really comfortable to play in there on that TV. So I might be the pendulum might be swinging back over to me being more on a PS4.
I do love a good gaming den.
For sure.
All right. I've been playing a few more things, but we'll talk about that next week since we really gushed about Final Fantasy VII. I'm glad you're having a great time, Jason. It's not always that often that we play the same thing around the same time and also enjoy it. That's a pretty rare occurrence.
Oh, yeah. Enjoy that one in episode 2 because that will not happen for a while.
Yeah, no. I think the last time that happened was kind of Outer Worlds.
Yeah.
We already talked about that. So
right.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into the namesake of the podcast and talk about all the games that we're not playing. What do you wish you were playing, Jason?
I wish I was playing Star Wars, the Star Wars game that just came out that I'm not going to say the name of because I can't remember the subtitle of it. Don't tell me. It's Fallen Order. Jedi Fallen Order. Okay, yeah. That's the one. I think I'm ready to hop into that. So I have been subscribed to Xbox Game Pass. I jumped on that $1 deal. That's Xbox's offering. It's kind of like their Netflix for games. And obviously they don't have everything, but they have what they have. But these different services, they have different libraries. So I did the Ubisoft one for a while back last fall. I really enjoyed that, but I felt like, okay, well, I've played everything here I want to play for now. Hopped into Game Pass when that $1 deal popped up. Then I got 3 months of that. Basically, I spent all 3 of those months playing The Outer Worlds with some sprinkled in like multiplayer games that Tyler and I would jump in for one night just because they were there. Then we decided we wanted to try Battlefield 5. And EA Access is only $5 a month. So I have that, and I said to myself, Fallen Order is there, but I feel like I need to take advantage of this subscription service while I have it. Surely there's something good on there, or something unique that I've like wanted to play in the past and haven't. So I downloaded Vampire, Vampyre,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you're supposed to say a vampire or vampire. I know what you're talking about though.
Yeah. So I
Wait,
downloaded that,
don't nod.
and
I think whatever. It doesn't matter.
yeah. So that one's from I can't even say the name of the studio. Don't nod entertainment.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you.
Pay attention to your
Well,
co-host, Jason.
You cut out.
He is, and he's really smart and kind of handsome.
Well, just kind of handsome though. So they developed Life is Strange, which I've never played before. It was a really indie feel, and I only played about 40 minutes of it. And I did that for like a couple other little games. Like I downloaded Titanfall 2, which was really cool, but I'm just like, I kind of got the same. Like I don't think I'm in the mood for a first person shooter right now. I think I just need to play Star Wars because I've wanted to play it and it's there. So I just need to do it before all these other games start coming out.
I think you should. I played it. I didn't care for it. I did beat it though. Like I wasted, not wasted, but I committed time to beating it. I just didn't like it by the end. That was, I'm not going to go into it really long right now, but I know I'm the odd man out on that one. There's just a lot of different things about it that I didn't like. Very similar to the ways that I didn't like Control. But at the end of the day, I actually think Control's a better game than Jedi.
Well, that's another one I want to play.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen it on sale for maybe as low as 30. I'll have to double check.
That one on a big sale, like not even like a month after it came out. So it shouldn't be hard finding that cheap anywhere.
So I don't know. Probably Control or Star Wars is my next. Which one would you recommend of those two?
Star Wars or Control? Probably Control. It's shorter. Okay.
Oh, well, that's always a plus for me. I don't want to
get. They both have the ability to get like stuck though, and that's never very fun. But
yeah, how long was Star Wars ish?
I don't know. I didn't do a good job tracking it. I want to say not 30 hours, and maybe even not 20 hours. But that would seem really fast, and I didn't spend a lot of time doing much.
It says it's only 16 hours on how long to beat.
Okay.
So all styles is 21, so it's like probably 16 to 20 hours. That's like my jam right there. That game, like that length of game.
Yeah, and I mean it's Star Wars. The beginning's great. There are parts of that game that are amazing. The end is really fun. I don't like the main character. I don't like the combat, which is kind of like, ooh, that's the whole game. The whole game is combat. Like it's 80% combat, 20% doing the whole Metroidvania exploration thing.
I don't love backtracking through 3D environments. I don't mind it as much in 2D, but I really dislike it in 3D.
For the most part, you don't have to, but the moments that you do are brutal because there isn't. And maybe they've changed this in an update somewhere. I don't think they have because people just kept complaining about it. There is absolutely zero fast travel of any kind. Like,
yeah,
none. There's not even like so your ship is always like starting point. It's 0.0 on any given map. There's nothing anywhere around it. You have to go out into the map to get into anything interesting. So you would think at least, oh, well, I want to go back to my ship to go to another planet. Let me just teleport immediately to my ship. No, you're not allowed.
Oh my gosh.
That's not true with Control. Control is a very tight, maze of a map, but there are like, little, they call them control points, and you just warp between them as soon as you unlock them. So,
and that's only about 11 hours.
Yeah, it's a lot shorter. It's got its own pain points, but it is fun. It's got a lot of reading in it too, though.
Yeah, I'm not the best reader.
Yeah, but I would probably still go with Star Wars.
Wait, you said Control.
Did I say Control?
Well, you said Control before we started and talking about.
I've changed my mind. You should go with Star. Okay. You would have to buy Control. You don't have to buy Star Wars.
Okay, you've convinced me. After this, I will get Star Wars downloading so I can play it.
Sounds good.
So I can play it next week because I don't have any time between now and Sunday to play. So
understand.
So what else? What do you wish you have been playing?
I wish I was playing everything all the time, every day. I talked about Doom last week. I'm getting to the point where if I don't finish it soon, I won't. And so I want to finish it. I'm not going to be getting Eternal right away because if I get anything, I'll get Animal Crossing instead, but I'll probably not get that either because I don't want to buy two games so close together. Animal Crossing comes out on the 20th, and then Final Fantasy comes out on April 10th, so that's not too far apart.
Mm-hmm.
It's only 20 days. But have you seen those memes and like all the fan art? Because Animal Crossing and Doom are releasing on the same day, instead of doing the usual like, oh, we have to compete for attention and sales and stuff. Like all the fans came together and like crossed over, and they're making art where like Animal Crossing characters are killing demons, and the Doom guys doing really cute Animal Crossing stuff.
That's pretty funny.
That's really funny. Halo dropped. That was kind of unexpected. They did like Halo Combat Evolved, so that's Halo 1, came out for PC. So the Master Chief Collection launched last year, was it?
Yeah.
And so that launched for Xbox consoles, and you got the entire collection right away. But for some reason, the PC one is being drip fed to you. So all you had, and in chronological order, not release order. So all you had access to, even if you bought the full thing, was Reach. Of course, I didn't buy the full thing. I used Game Pass.
Right.
And then finally, Halo 1 is available. I've never played any of the Halo games for more than like 10 minutes. So I'm kind of excited to do that. So I will be getting around to that eventually, but just not anytime soon.
I remember really enjoying the campaign on that one, but I played it back on the original Xbox, so it's been a while.
It's done. You've checked it off. You don't need to go back to it.
I'm not going to.
We're never free to play. We're not. Let's play all the old games we've played a million times.
Right. Exactly.
Dreams. That's a dream. I'm never playing Dreams. I'm never buying Dreams. Like if I play Dreams, it'll be like some sort of happy accident and coincidence, because I don't even see how that's ever going to happen. But it looks fun. It's Game Maker the game, but in a much cooler way, it looks like. And everyone's talking really, high praise and all that. But
that would have been our jam back in middle school if this game had come out in the summer.
We wouldn't have been writing poetry books. We would have been making dreams.
Exactly.
Based on our poetry books.
Yeah, we really would have. It would have been weird.
And then, as always, I wish I was playing Stardew Valley every day. I've beaten that game. I've bought that game twice. So I got it for PS4 and I got it for Switch. And
you're a madman. Last week you said you don't replay games. I guess it doesn't count if you do it on a different platform.
Stardew Valley doesn't count ever, because Stardew Valley's eternal. It's just a game you play you just keep playing it. Yeah, there's an end goal in mind, but the game continues forever, and then you start it over. And that guy won't stop making content. Eric Barone, if you're listening, please stop making new patches and new content for the single player Stardew Valley, because then everybody has to restart to experience it all fresh and organic. And it's so much fun. Stop it. Please don't do that anymore. Because he just announced 1.4 came out a couple months ago, which was this big patch, big content update. And then 1.5 is like in the works. He's like, I've got another one coming. I'm like,
wow.
And you're the best, but you're also the worst.
I'm surprised it's not on your list.
What?
Ori and the Will of the Wisps comes out March 11th.
Show is playing it, but it's not out yet.
Oh, well, I suppose that's true. All these games are out.
Yeah, no, this is more of a I could go play that, but I'm not going to.
Gotcha.
Because of other reasons, because there are other games. No, I'm going to play Ori.
But you won't play it right away because you'll be on vacation.
Well, we won't be recording next week because I'll be on vacation, and Jason can't carry this by himself. He's not that talented.
No, I'm not.
No.
I could try to get Greg to do it, but he probably would flake.
He would. And then you could do his part, except it would be this really sarcastic, mocking tone the whole time. And I actually want to listen to that. You should do that instead.
Okay, I'll do that next week.
All right. Since we still haven't gotten too many questions from our listeners, we'll go ahead and ask each other a few more. Jason wants to know, what is our earliest gaming memory? Go ahead, Jason.
It might not be my earliest, but it's one of my earliest. So I think the year, I want to say it was either 94 or 95. So I was like 5 or 6. I think it was before my brother was born. I may have just turned 5. And I remember it was Christmas morning, and there was this huge box in our living room wrapped, and it was for me. And this thing was twice as tall as me and twice as long as me. It was the biggest box I think I'd ever seen. And I unwrapped it, and it was full of shredded newspaper. And I tipped the box over and dug into the bottom of the shredded newspaper, and there was a smaller box. And then I opened that one. Yeah, right? And I opened that one. It was a Sega Game Gear.
I think I played that Sega Game Gear.
You probably have.
I think that was the only Sega Game Gear I ever touched.
Yeah, I think it's still at my parents' house, and I think it still works. But the problem is that they don't make enough AA batteries to power it.
They don't.
So that thing would suck down, I want to say 6 AA's, maybe 8. I can't remember if it was 3 on each side or 4 on each side. But I mean, I think the battery only lasted like an hour. And I only had like 3 games for it, but I loved that thing because we would always go on car trips from Chattanooga down to Florida to visit my dad's family. And you know, what do you do in the car as a 5-year-old? I got to play that thing. And eventually they got me a power adapter that plugged into the cigarette lighter in the car. And I could just sit back there and play Sonic just for 12 hours straight. It was amazing because I had never experienced portable gaming before. That's probably why I'm so fixated on game streaming. It's like the next iteration of portable gaming. But that's my earliest gaming memory. What about you, Karch?
That was special. My first earliest gaming memory, it's probably my first memory, period. Which tells you how important it is and also how long ago it was.
Yeah.
I must have been 4. I feel like 3 was too early, but I suppose it could have been 3. I'm not sure. My parents don't remember either. But it was an unboxing of a NES my aunt had sent me. She had sent it without asking, if I'm not mistaken. She just I don't know, she picked it up. This would have been 1993 or 4, depending on how old I was. And so at this point, the PS1, the SNES has been out for a couple years, so I'm sure it was nice and cheap. I know she had one when she was a little bit younger, and so she got it for us, or got it for me. And I just remember my parents looking at each other and kind of being like, "Oh, I don't know about this." Especially my dad, who was definitely not. I mean, you know, he played arcade games at bars and wherever arcade games were held,
Right.
real old stuff like Asteroids and Centipede stuff.
Yeah.
But to have it in the house, I don't know what he thought about it. But that was it, man. That was it for me. I was hooked from that moment on, and 30 years later, almost 30 years later, I'm talking about it on a podcast with my best friend. So my dad tells a little story anytime it comes up. That story comes up about me, really excited. They set it up for me, and then I just immediately start playing Super Mario Brothers, and boom, right into that Goomba over and over again. Just didn't care. Apparently, I just didn't care. So I watch my daughter play games, and she gets frustrated. And she's like, "I can't do it." I'm like, "Well, you can do it. You just have to blah blah blah." And you try not to backseat game and stuff.
Right.
If she doesn't want to do it, or if she's not having fun, especially that young, she's just gonna walk away from it immediately. I guess that wasn't me. I just thought that dying even was the best thing ever or something.
Well, our kids have kind of been inundated with technology. So to be able to do that, that's not a new concept to them. Like everything, you interface with everything.
That's true. I mean, we do a real good job of making sure she doesn't know how to use anything. And we're
gonna keep that up.
Like she doesn't have any kind of touchscreen of her own. She wouldn't know how to use a Kindle or an iPod or iPad. And then she barely knows how to use the Fire Stick for hey, bring up Wild Kratts or bring up, Daniel Tiger or My Little Pony or whatever.
We're terrible parents. Luke can do a lot of stuff on a lot of devices.
I mean, in a year it won't matter because eventually she will too, and it'll be like it'll be like we never stopped her from doing it. But
yeah.
So I kind of thought, in some respects she has a lot of experience because she's just, like you said, she's around it, but she doesn't have a lot of hands-on experience. But I don't know. I think it's just the types of games. She loves Mario Party, doesn't like things where you have to jump over things. I don't know.
That makes sense. Luke, his favorites are Rocket League.
Mm-hmm.
I just put him in a practice thing with infinite boost, and he just holds down the button and drives in a straight line. till he goes up the wall on the ceiling and loops back around.
That sounds like how I play Rocket League.
Yeah, that and Tetris 99. He just digs the music. His favorite, huh?
That's so cool.
Yeah, no, he loves the music. He dances, and his other favorite thing to do is try to go back to the home screen while I'm trying to play. He loves it. It cracks him up.
Of course it does. I remember early on when my daughter started walking, I disabled the power button on my PC so that she couldn't just quickly press it and shut my entire thing off. You have to hold it down a good 3 or 4 seconds.
Were you okay? Sorry, this is kind of going back to the NES, but did you have like Harvest Moon? Well, I guess that was a Super Nintendo game, but did you have any type of game where it would like make sense to leave it on?
I mean, kind of all of them, because nothing saved back then except for like Zelda and a couple other games. But like Mario 3, I never beat until I was an adult, emulating it on my PSP using like, save states, because the game would completely reset when you turned it off. So I would try to.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Because I had a friend back in elementary school. It was actually before I moved to Florida when we lived in Texas. And he had a Super Nintendo, and he would just always leave it on. I always thought it was insane. I was like, he would turn the TV off, but he'd leave the console on all day and just come home.
A lot of people did that. I remember my parents wouldn't have it. They wouldn't. The idea that I would leave an electronic device that's plugged into the wall and sucking out energy.
Yes, exactly.
Who knows how many cents or dollars on the power bill was unacceptable.
Yeah.
It wasn't until much later when I was playing stuff like the Chow Gardens in Sonic Adventure, where like time in the game at least needed to pass for certain things to happen, and you could really speed things up by just leaving on overnight while you slept. But before that, I wouldn't really do that because, again, I was ingrained to just turn the thing off when you were done with it.
Right.
And there just wasn't a need to. Either I was never going to beat it and I would just shut it off and try it again the next time in the older days, or, I would save it and then just come back to it later.
Right. And that's kind of what I had this aversion to leaving electronics on, but I don't know. Anyway.
We used to shut you leave your computer down on all the time now. Maybe a laptop shut down, but your actual desktop, that's on all the time. I remember
If you shut down your laptop, I don't shut mine down.
My work one I do, because then I take it here and there, and it takes like a million years to come out of sleep mode. Even if nothing was running, like no active application, it's like dying just to turn back on. And so it's actually quicker for me to shut it down and reboot it, which makes zero sense. But
Pro tip for crappy work laptops.
Exactly.
Okay, this is another question I had for you. What, in your opinion, is the best console and the worst console however you define that? It could be best and worst that you owned. It could be best and worst of all time. However you define that.
Worst is hard. I think I'll start with worst because it's probably easier. I will say, first of all, I have never personally owned any console, handheld or otherwise, that I've like actually just hated or disliked. But I got a Sega Genesis when I was about 6 or 7. Yeah, 6 or 7. And I didn't know it at the time. Like, I don't even know if I knew what a Super Nintendo was at the time. I think I definitely knew what a Sega Genesis was, because I was like, when I opened it, I did that kid thing where you act way more excited than you actually are. You're really excited. Like, I think I pretended to faint, even though it wasn't that big a deal. I think I also opened a game first. Like, they accidentally gave me that. Like, I think it was like Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine or whatever, that weird like Puyo Puyo game.
Yeah. And
I opened that first and I got upset. And I was like, I don't have this. I can't play it. And they're like, and they shoved the big box in front of me. And so I opened that. That was fun. And I really liked it. We had a lot of fun on it as a family. I played a lot of games on it. But eventually I would learn what I was missing out on. And I was a Nintendo kid at the NES, skipped SNES, and then I was a Nintendo kid all the way up through until today, really.
Yeah.
So that was probably the worst one, only just because, like, man, what could have been if I had Super Mario World when I was that young, instead of occasionally with other people and then much later on my own. If I had gotten into Final Fantasy way earlier. And it was kind of fun going backwards, experiencing something that I never got to experience. But at the same time, I wish I just had a Super Nintendo the whole time.
Sure. Yeah.
What about you?
So for, oh wait, do you want to do your best?
Yeah, I'll do my best. Wait. I don't know. I don't know what my best is. It's a tie. I was thinking about this earlier today. I still can't decide. It's either the GameCube or the Switch. GameCube for the games and the time of my life that it was that it had launched. I think that came out. We were in 6th grade, something like that. It was like 2000, 2001.
6th or 7th, yeah.
And
that was an amazing console.
It was really good.
Because if I'm not mistaken, that was the first Nintendo console that was on discs, and it came out before. Did it come out before the PlayStation 2?
I don't remember. I think it did.
So because I remember going over to Sean Mimer's house, and like I had an N64, and I loved Super Smash Brothers. But then going to his house and seeing Melee, I was like, it was jaw dropping. The graphic upgrade of that console.
That's a whole nother conversation. How good Melee was compared to an already amazing game.
Right.
And it wasn't a launch title. I think it was supposed to be, but it wasn't. But it came out real soon, so it was practically a launch title. And I remember, I don't know if I played it at his house first, but I definitely remember playing it at your house when you guys first got it. And that immediately became the go-to system and the go-to game.
But the Switch definitely had its merits too, because there was a period of time, I think, kind of like you, like I missed that Xbox 360 PS3 era. Like I didn't have one. My brother had one at home, but I was off at Auburn, so like I didn't really ever get to play that. I didn't have a console, and so kind of, and then I bought one when I got married and we moved, but then being early in a marriage and just like when you find the time to do that, and we only have one TV, and it was kind of hard to find the time to game, so getting the Switch around the time my son was born, that got me back into gaming.
Yeah.
Which is, that's kind of special too. So,
yeah, I mean, I've always been a huge handheld fan. One day we'll do an episode about, favorite consoles and favorite handhelds, and I'll wax on for an hour about the Game Boy Advance because that's one of my favorite handhelds of all time. But the Switch was the promise of a console quality game. Maybe not the best console quality game, but definitely a really good game like Breath of the Wild in the palm of my hands for a good few hours. I mean, the battery still gets, goes down real fast with the more high performing games like Breath of the Wild, or I was playing Fire Emblem. Eats it up pretty quick there too, and that's not even
it's never been a problem for me. My Switch has never died. I can never sit there for 3.5 hours and play a game.
Oh, I see.
I never have that kind of time.
It's a good problem to have, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a tie between just how great the games were, and I can't get into a list of all GameCube games right now, otherwise we'd be here for another hour.
Sure.
But also the time of my life that it was, but the Switch, very similar. Like I had gotten a PS4 like a year or two before that, but then the Switch came out, and I feel like I just started playing more everything. I started playing more PC, I started playing more PS4 because I was playing so much Switch as well, because it was easy to just pick it up. And like you said, you want to spend time with somebody, and sometimes that just means reading a book next to them, or playing on your Switch next to them while you talk to them and make and laugh and watch whatever show you've got going on together. But yeah, it's a tie between those two. I can't pick right now. Maybe in another 10 years.
Okay. Well, we'll see how that plays out. For me, I'm gonna go with the best console first. For me, it's the PlayStation 4 Pro. And mainly just the PlayStation 4 in general because of the exclusives. We've had so many incredible exclusives. I need to circle back to Horizon, but we had Spider-Man, we had God of War, the Uncharted, but just Uncharted 4. What other exclusives have been on this thing? I mean,
The Last of Us 2 and Ghost of Tsushima are coming. Did you say God of War?
Did I say what?
Did you say God of War?
I said God of War.
Okay. There's a few more. Bloodborne. I never played Bloodborne, but that's a huge fan favorite,
Yeah.
and I would love to play it one day. I have it on PS Plus, but I just haven't got around to it yet.
Yeah. So I mean, I would just say like if you're judging it off the average of the life cycle of the console, I think the PlayStation has been the best for me because it's fluid in terms of the operating system. I some people might be bothered by it. I think it's simple. My games are just right there. You've got folders now.
I
It's
love it.
really easy to use. It just is what it is. It's so from that standpoint, I like the PS4. Ease of use, library, graphical fidelity. It also doubles as a Blu-ray player, as a multimedia like streamer. You can do Netflix, all that sort of thing. So it's kind of just like everything I need all in one box.
Can't
But
play your old PlayStation games.
yeah, that's true. That's true. And I think it's interesting because like I'm so ingrained in my mindset of what my perception of these consoles was at launch. And so to me, the Xbox will always be the one that like launched with what was that game? Ryers?
Rise,
R-Y?
Rise 2,
Rise?
I think it was.
Okay. Was that the one that was like it only played in 900p? Like they couldn't even get
I
it to
don't remember
1080?
that. All I remember is like some like really mediocre like Roman soldier, Spartan warrior kind of game.
Pretty sure that was the one that you could only play in 900p at launch because of how kind of underpowered that console was. And then it just had no games. It did not have backwards compatibility at launch. They focused a lot on the multimedia aspect of it, which at the time I didn't care. I mean, I think I had an Apple TV anyway. I was like, who cares? After PlayStation did the announcement, they obviously launched a couple console, and then in the launch window, infamous Second Son. I just remember looking at the reflection of the puddles. And you had the streetlights, and I was like, "This is amazing. This is next gen right here." And so to me, that will always be imprinted in my mind. And so it's hard for me to say any console other than the PlayStation 4 Pro. In terms of the worst console, I'm going to have to go, and I actually owned one of these. I'm going to have to go with Virtual Boy.
Yeah.
It came out in 1995 and it launched at $180. So if you were to adjust that to 2020, that's about $300. Which isn't, I mean, it's not crazy. Like you paid more for that for PlayStation VR at launch, but it only had 14 games released in North America. And, I mean, I never had a problem with motion sickness with it, but I know a lot of people did. And it was ugly. It was hard to use. It was annoying that you had to, for anybody who doesn't know it essentially looked like a pair of binoculars or like a viewfinder on a tripod that you had to sit it on your table and then put your face up to it and kind of like crane your neck forward. Anyway, it was just red. Everything was red.
That was terrible. It was like you had become the Terminator, but not in a good way.
Right. It's like you were forced to live your life as the Terminator. Yeah. So I'm going to go with that for the worst console of all time. 14 games, $180 in 1995. And I'm sure those games were all terrible.
They were. I played it once at some kid whose name I couldn't even begin to remember. He had maybe half of those games because I remember just swiping cartridges out of whatever part of the system they got plugged into. I don't remember a tripod. For some reason, I feel like I slapped something on my head. Maybe it was like an aftermarket kind of like headpiece that you could then not have to have that stupid tripod because I've never known that part about it.
Yeah.
I just assumed it was the worst VR you could imagine.
Well, it was.
Which is what it was. But
anyway. Well, we've gone on for a long time here.
We have.
So I guess we can wrap her up.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody. Once again, we are never free to play. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feedback, we want to hear from you. Do you like these long episodes? Do you like a shorter episode? Do you want a 3-hour episode?
We can do it.
But you can tell us about it at Never Free.
We can do it.
We can do it? Never mind. We can do it. Jason and I are on board for a 3-hour episode. We're not going to play a 30-hour game, but we'll do a 3-hour episode. So yeah, you can send those emails to neverfreetoplay@gmail.com. We are at patreon.com/neverfreetoplay, and on all the social media at neverfreetoplay in some capacity. If you search it, you'll find it. Any closing thoughts?
We're going to give Greg a week off of being the worst because he did edit the podcast and get it back to me in like one day, which was awesome. He did make the theme song, which was nice.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Greg. So you're not the worst this week. Other thing is that we're working on audio solutions. So we're working on this week. I'm not recording in the closet. I'm trying something else out. I'll probably post a picture of this ridiculous setup to Instagram once we actually start posting to social media so you guys can see. So I hope this sounds better, but I'm not entirely sure that it will. But we'll just keep tweaking it until we do. I'm working on sound treatment for my spare room, and I know Karch is working on getting a new mic. So hopefully in the next few months, we'll be kind of more up to speed on that front.
Sounds good. Yeah. It's going to be a little rocky for a while, but, we're not going anywhere. And we're just going to keep getting better at this, better sounding, better pacing.
Yep.
Topics.
Yeah. Totally.
What was I going to say? I was going to say something. Oh, well. Oh, right. We're going to try to do this weekly as best we can. I don't know if we're going to do this kind of episode every week. Maybe we'll do like an alternating, more of a... We're just going to talk about this one thing for an hour or something. But either way, next week is going to be episode free because I will not be available to record. And Jason's not going to sit here and talk to himself. So
I could see if Greg will do it with me.
You can, and by all means, man. If you can get him to commit, have at it. But otherwise, we will see you the week after that.
Sure.
We need a sign off. We're gonna work on that next week too.
Sign off for next week. Add it to the doc.
Have a good one, everybody.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.